Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Battle Through the Heavens based on novel. So let's start. Xiao Yan's heart was filled with shock as he stared at the burning cream-white flames on Yao Lao's body. He naturally understood just how difficult it was to expel the demonic flame that burned within one's body. If he didn't possess 5 types of heavenly flames, he would have ended up suffering serious injuries from the demonic flames earlier. Although Yao Lao was an elite Doxing, he no longer had a heavenly flame guarding his body. He would be seriously injured if the demonic flames were allowed to invade his body. Xiao Yang's body reflexively moved while his heart was feeling shocked. He appeared beside Yao Lao in a flash. After which, his palm suddenly pounded against Yao Lao's back. A low cry was also suddenly emitted from his mouth. Xiao Yang had mixed a spiritual fluctuation within this cry. The sound wave that was mixed with this fluctuation was transmitted into Yao Lao's ear. It violently collided with Yao Lao's soul, causing his face to pale. His tightly shut eyes were also suddenly opened at this moment. Yao Lao, who had opened his eyes, looked at Xiao Yang beside him. He continued to pant through his mouth. A moment later, he finally wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said, "Thus purifying demonic lotus flame is terrifying. It is unexpected that it purposefully creates illusions to stir one's emotions to attract the flames that will burn oneself. If you had not warned me earlier, I'm afraid that my fate would have not been pleasant." Xiao Yang bitterly laughed. His eyes swept around him as he said, "The fog in this place is a little strange. Let's leave this area first. Where is Ancestor, Wu Yun and the rest?" Yao Lao frowned and asked in a worried voice. The demonic flame realm was far too mysterious. It was fraught with fatal danger. Even an elite Doxing would face a continuous tribulations upon entering it. I looked for them earlier. There are no signs of them in this area. Zuno and the rest have also disappeared. Xiao Yang shook his head and voiced his thoughts. They are most likely with Zuno, Yang, and the rest. That group is powerful, and it should not be difficult for them to escape the illusion. Yao Lao nodded. Even if he wanted to save them, there was nothing he could do in this strange place. The only thing that he felt fortunate about was that he did not bring a large group in. Otherwise, all of them would have already perished. Let's go. Xiao Yang waved his hand. His eyes glanced at those people still sinking into the illusion, before they swiftly rushed out of the fog. He did not act out of goodness and rescue every single one of them. Most of the people here were after the purifying demonic lotus flame. They could be described as his competitors. Xiao Yang did not wish to see his kindness bring trouble for him in the future. Xiao Yang and Yao Lao escaped from the illusion, and did not remain in this area. After a couple of minutes of flying, they managed to charge out of the area surrounded by fog. Xiao Yang and Yao Lao felt their bodies become a little lighter after they escaped the fog. They turned their heads and looked at the strange cream-white fog. Xiao Yang sighed in relief while feeling some lingering fear within his heart. Xiao Yang gege. A joyous voice was emitted from a short distance away, after the two of them hurried out of the fog. Xiao Yang lifted his head, and saw a large platform suspended in the air a short distance in front of him. There was a large white door at the end of the platform. At this moment, Zuno's group was clustered on the platform. Their eyes were filled with joy as they looked at Xiao Yang and Yao Lao, who had charged out of the fog. Xiao Yang slowly landed after seeing Zuno, Yang, and the others. He exchanged glances with Yao Lao and a flame suddenly surged into his eyes, but the area in front of him did not change. They are not an illusion. Xiao Yang only sighed in relief after seeing that nothing had changed. He smiled asked, "Are you all right?" "We're fine." Zuno's group swiftly hurried forward. She smiled and shook her head before exclaiming, "It is unexpected that the purifying demonic lotus flame is already able to release the nightmare heavenly fog. It looks like its strength has greatly improved over 1,000 years." Nightmare heavenly fog. Xiao Yang was startled. It is a fog that can cause a person to descend into an illusion forever. This was a unique, ultimate skill of the purifying demonic lotus saint. It is rumored that the purifying demonic lotus saint once unleashed the skill and covered an entire city within it. The people in the city felt as though they had lived for a couple of centuries. Only after the fog scattered did they suddenly realize that the 100-year experience was merely a dream. Jiyu Nanhai faintly smiled before sighing. It is rumored that the purifying demonic lotus flame wasn't able to use this skill 1,000 years ago. It is unexpected that this time around, it seems like this trip is indeed filled with danger. Purifying demonic lotus saint. Xiao Yan recalled the light cluster after hearing this name. The light cluster should have been created by the purifying demonic lotus saint, but the thing that surprised Xiao Yang was that the light cluster, which reacted to the purifying demonic lotus flame, had become quiet after entering this realm. Where are the rest? Xiao Yang's eyes swept around everyone. He looked around, only to discover that there was no one other than them on this square. This realm is the world of the purifying demonic lotus flame. We have landed in its hands the moment we entered that crack. Where we will be delivered will depend on its intentions, Zana explained. It has purposefully allowed us to come together. This realm is extremely mysterious. Earlier, I tested what I could do. If I forcefully attempted to break out of this area, even I would suffer a great backlash. This place is like an extremely tough prison. It is impossible to break it. Jiyu Nanhai shook his head. His eyes looked at the large tightly shut door and said. According to what the ancestors in the clan said, the same situation also occurred back then. If we walk through the large door, we will naturally be able to see the purifying demonic lotus flame. However, there will be many obstructions behind the large door. We must overcome them if we wish to arrive at the purifying demonic lotus flame. This place has been set up by the purifying demonic lotus flame. It will likely not be easy to forcefully charge through it. Xiao Yang frowned and remarked. This is the territory of the purifying demonic lotus flame. Even we can only obey its rules before can find its actual body. Jiyu Nanhai faintly laughed. He was about to continue saying something when the surrounding space suddenly fluctuated. A terrifying temperature slowly appeared around them. Be careful. Jiyu Nanhai frowned and cried out after sensing what was happening. Of course, his reminder was unnecessary. At this moment, everyone had already become cautious. Their eyes wearily looked at the many distortions in the space around them. The realm of the demonic flame was far too mysterious. They had to be as cautious as possible. Bang bang. The space around them became more distorted before numerous crack lines appeared. Wave after wave of cream-white flames swept over from the cracks. Soon after, many human figures with a cream-white flame around their bodies came surged out from the many cracks like floodwater. In the blink of an eye, the sky had filled with these fire human figures. These human figures were covered in a flame. All of them held a long fire spear in their hands. Their emotionless eyes stared at Xiao Yang's group. Xiao Yang's eyes were filled with shock as he stared back at the many fire human figures. He was surprised to discover that these people possessed real bodies and their auras were all quite powerful. Be careful, they are all fire slave, experts who have been refined by the purifying demonic lotus flame. They are another form of a puppet. Jiyu Nanhai spoke in a deep voice after seeing these fire human figures appear. Roar! The tens of thousands of fire human figures let out a violent roar after Jiyu Nanhai's words sounded. Their bodies moved in unison as they rushed toward Xiao Yang's group from all directions. Their momentum was truly earth-shaking. Xiao Yang frowned upon seeing this human tide rush forward with a ferocious momentum. He reached out with his hand and a terrifying force spread. 100 fire human figures exploded. Zano and the rest also unleashed attacks while Xiao Yang did. Everyone present was an elite Do Xing. Their attacks were naturally extremely powerful. Those fire figures were turned into nothing a bunch at a time, but regardless of how ferocious Xiao Yang's group's attacks were, there was still an endless number of fire slaves surging out of those cracks. There was no end to this killing. It is pointless to continue this slaughter. We can only head inside. Jiyu Nanhai cried out in a deep voice. Xiao Yang frowned. He mused for a moment, nodded and then said, "Let's go." Xiao Yang's toes pressed on the ground after his voice sounded. His body rushed forward. The fire slaves blocking his way exploded when they approached within 100 feet of him. The group began to easily charge through the fire-human crowd. All of them threw their own palms that ruthlessly smashed onto the large door. Bang! The large door suddenly cracked apart from the combined attacks of so many experts. The endless fire slaves halted the moment the large door broke. They remained suspended in the sky, crowded together. Let's go. According to the ancestors of the clan, the demonic flame is located at the end of this demonic flame hall. Jiyu Nanhai cried out. Yao Lao's group immediately shifted their eyes to Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang slightly frowned. He glanced at the endless fire slaves behind him and then looked at the area behind the large door. After a momentary silence, he nodded and said, "Let's get going." Jiyu Nanhai also inclined his head after hearing Xiao Yang agree. His body moved, and he took the lead to head through the large door. Zun Er and the rest followed behind him. Xiao Yang knit his brows as he looked at the many figures rushing forward. Remaining here would mean facing the endless fire slave army. It seemed that it was only possible to escape this situation by continuing on. For some unknown reason, Xiao Yang's heart vaguely felt an unease. This demonic flame realm was far too mysterious. Cream-white flames filled one's eyes within this spacious hall. Many fire-human figures stood straight-backed in this nearly 10,000-foot large square hall. They did not emit any sounds, but an extremely terrifying aura saturated the hall. That aura merged together and transformed into a large fire dragon that lingered over the heads of these fire-human figures. There was a killing intent surging from it. Xiao Yang's group studied the formation in this hall from a corner. Xiao Yang's brows were involuntarily knit. This was not the first time he had seen such a situation. Ever since they had entered that large door, Xiao Yang's group had charged through 3 halls similar to this, but the further they progressed, the fire slaves they faced became stronger. Based on the senses of Xiao Yang's group, every single one of these fire slaves in front of them possessed a Dozun strength. One Dozun was not worth mentioning in the eyes of Xiao Yang's group, but when this number increased to 10,000, even an elite Doshing would have to brace their attention, especially when these fire slaves cooperated with each other perfectly. Their combined strength was extremely frightening. Elder Jiyu, when will we reach the end if we continue charging on like this? Xiao Yang frowned and involuntarily asked. Even though their group was quite strong, the Do Qi within their bodies would be exhausted sooner or later if they continued charging through these endless halls. The natural energy within this realm was mixed with the demon flame. No one dared to simply absorb it. Even an elite Doshing would not be able to endure if one's exhaustion was greater than one's intake. We have no other choice. The demonic flame realm has become an extremely dangerous place after being managed by the purifying demonic lotus flame for thousands of years. Otherwise, others would not have failed to capture it during these thousands of years. Jiyu Nanhai shook his head and replied. Xiao Yang's frown deepened upon hearing this reply, but he also felt helpless. This demonic flame realm was far too strange. After charging to the next place, the previous place would strangely disappear. It seemed was as though there was a large invisible hand quietly removing the places behind them, forcing them to head forward. Did those ancestors from your clan also break through all these obstacles when they had come to this place in the past? Xiao Yang asked. Yes. Is the purifying demonic lotus flame stronger 1,000 years ago, or is it stronger now? Xiao Yang's eyes flashed as he asked. Although the purifying demonic lotus flame 1,000 years ago was not captured by anyone, it still suffered a serious injury, but 1,000 years is more than enough time for it to fully recover. Moreover, from the looks of the nightmare heavenly fog, the current purifying demonic lotus flame is stronger. Jiyu Nanhai hesitated for a moment before responding. So it's like this. Xiao Yang lifted his head and looked at the dome above the large hall. His eyes slightly flickered. It seems like this purifying demonic lotus flame is planning to play with us like dolls. Everyone knit their brows after hearing these words. Being played with by a heavenly flame was really something that was difficult to accept. Let's continue to walk. Xiao Yan mused for a moment. After which, he gently waved his hand. His voice had regained its cool. Everyone was startled upon hearing this command. They quickly nodded as their bodies moved and attacked at the same time. The group easily crushed the fire slave army in the hall in an instant. After which, all of them turned into light figures that appeared at the end of the hall in a couple of flashes. After which, they destroyed another large door and entered it. They continued this bitter attempt to overcome the obstacles during this subsequent period of time, but the tasks were extremely monotonous. Each large hall had the same fire slaves. The only difference was that the strength of the fire slaves increased the further they ventured. In the last clash, even ancestor Yun had suffered some minor injuries while fighting the fire slave army. Although the rest were slightly better, their expressions had gradually become grave. Their continuous charges was little different than having clashed with many elite Do Xings, causing them feel exhausted. Bang! The enormous door of the hall was shattered by the expressionless Xiao Yan with a palm strike. Another large hall appeared as the stone fragments shot out. Everyone felt a weariness in their hearts the moment they saw the large hall. They did not know how long it would take for these various obstacles to come to an end. Xiao Yan's eyes swept over the large hall. However, he quickly emitted a her sound because he discovered that this large hall was not packed with fire slaves. Have we passed through all the obstacles? Zun also discovered the change. No, Jiyu Nanhai shook his head. His eyes were locked on something in the middle of the large hall. There was a somewhat skinny figure standing at that spot. Strangely enough, no flame lingered around his body. Both of his eyes were tightly shut, as a mountain-like aura spread from his body. 4-star Do Xing. Jiyu Nanhai's and Zi Yang's bodies gently trembled at this moment. A grave expression slowly surged onto their faces. Although the two of them were also 4-star Do Xings, that skinny figure in the hall was still a little stronger than them. Is this also a fire slave? Xiao Yang asked in disbelief. Just how terrifying was this purifying demonic lotus flame? It was able to turn a 4-star Do Xing into a fire slave. He can barely be considered a fire slave since he possesses an intelligence that belongs to him. Compared to those fire slaves that are controlled by the purifying demonic lotus flame, he possesses his own autonomy. Jiyu Nanhai spoke with a grave expression. Looks like this is the final hurdle. We should be able to reach the location of the purifying demonic lotus flame once we pass through this. This won't be easy. Xiao Yang frowned as he remarked. Even with their lineup, it would not be easy to defeat a 4-star Do Xing. There is no way to retreat now that we have come here. Zi Yang spread her hands as she spoke to Xiao Yang. After which, her pretty eyes looked to Jiyu Nanhai as she spoke in a somewhat lazy tone. The two of us should attack together and finish him off as soon as possible. I am completely irritated. Jiyu Nanhai did not reject her suggestion. He understood that it would be difficult for him alone to deal with this skinny man. Pay attention to the surroundings. Xiao Yang gently waved his hand as everyone quietly rushed into the hall. They separated and surrounded the skinny human figure. Zi Yang and Jiyu Nanhai landed in front of that man. That human figure's tightly shut eyes slowly opened when everyone landed within the large hall. A pair of dark black eyes that were void of emotion were revealed, but they clearly contained an additional liveliness compared to the fire slave they had met earlier. Nevertheless, those eyes were still ice-cold. Both of his eyes merely stared at Zi Yang and Jiyu Nanhai in front of him. Neither party spoke, but the atmosphere had become more tense. Xiao Yang only managed to get a good look at this skinny human figure after approaching him. The skinny figure was wearing ordinary clothes, and his face seemed to be completely stiff. There was no discernible expression on his face. Both of his eyes were cold and indifferent, appearing like ice that had not melted in 10,000 years. Bang! The ground of the quiet hall suddenly trembled as the skinny figure gently clenched the empty space in front of him. A strange 10-foot large, blood-red axe appeared out of nowhere. This skinny figure appeared a little comical beneath the outline of that giant axe. The people present could clearly sense the terrifying energy the skinny figure hid. This person is really powerful. Xiao Yan's expression was grave. He would never have imagined that such an expert could be controlled by the purifying demonic lotus flame. Jiyu Nanhai frowned as he looked at the giant blood-colored axe. It seemed as though he was thinking of something. Both parties did not say anything unnecessary after the blood-colored axe appeared. 3 pairs of eyes glanced at each other. Wild wind suddenly blew as 3 figures brutally collided together. The earth-shaking ripple that erupted caused Xiao Yan's group to hurriedly pull back. Clang clang. The 3 figures in the large hall flashed with dazzling speeds. Sparks continued to shoot out as the 3 figures flashed and appeared. The unusually strong hall began to crack an inch at a time. Many crack lines began to spread. Xiao Yan's group had already withdrawn by a great distance. They were in no position to interfere as the 3 elite Doshings exchanged blows. Just the remnant ripples caused them to feel awed. Even with Ziyang and Jiyu Nanhai's combined attacks, that skinny figure holding the large blood axe did not give in. The large axe danced like the wind as a bloody scent spread across the hall. Although he was powerful, Ziyang and Jiyu Nanhai were not ordinary people either. Yi's skinny figure gradually fell into a disadvantage as the fight continued. However, his occasional retaliation still caused Ziyang and Jiyu Nanhai to appear a little miserable. If it was a one-on-one fight, these 2 individuals would be no match for this mysterious person. Clang! The 3 figures suddenly made contact in the middle of the large hall. A frightening sound swept apart like a huge wave. The figure with the blood axe staggered and flew backwards. His feet stomped against the ground of the large hall, forming over a dozen deep pits. Roar! That skinny figure's indifferent eyes suddenly revealed a crazy heat after being forced back. A low roar was emitted from his throat as a powerful light suddenly shot out of his brow. A symbol slowly appeared in front of everyone's eyes as the skinny person's aura suddenly soared. Xiao Yang's eyes immediately paused on this strange symbol. After which, he seemed to have been struck by lightning as his face became dull. This is Xiao Clan's clan tattoo. The symbol that appeared on the person with the blood axe was the unique clan tattoo of the Xiao clan. Why did this person possess the Xiao clan's clan tattoo? Xiao Yang's eyes were stunned as he studied the clan tattoo on the forehead of the skinny figure. A great storm seemed to have risen within his heart. Under normal circumstances, he should be the only person within the current Xiao clan that possessed such a clan tattoo. Why had it suddenly appeared on this mysterious person? Xiao clan's clan tattoo. Zana's group had also discovered this tattoo. Their stunned eyes were thrown to Xiao Yang. All of them had seen Xiao Yang use the Xiao clan's clan tattoo. Hence, they were extremely familiar with this thing. Could it be an ancestor of the Xiao clan? Zana guessed. Xiao Yang's heart shook upon hearing this suggestion. This purifying demonic lotus flame had existed for a long period of time. If one were to trace its history, it had existed far longer than the Xiao clan had. It was not impossible for this flame to have captured an expert from the Xiao clan during that era. Some joy involuntarily rose within Xiao Yang's heart, but this joy had just risen when it gradually sank. This skinny man seemed to have become a fire slave of the purifying demonic lotus flame. Bang! The skinny man, whose aura had soared, suddenly swung his axe forward while those thoughts were lingering in Xiao Yang's heart. A frightening wind instantly tore through the air and hacked into Ziyang and Jiyu Nanhai's energy barrier. Crack! The energy barrier was like being curd in front of this frightening attack that could slash through the sky and the land. The barrier was quickly shattered. Ziyang and Jiyu Nanhai inside seemed to have suffered heavy blows. Their expressions turned pale as they staggered dozens of steps back. Each of their steps left behind a half-foot deep footprint. Roar! That skinny man did not stop after forcing back Xiao Yan and Jiyu Nanhai with his axe. His body moved, and he appeared above the two of them. That strange blood-colored axe emitted a sizzling sound as it cut through empty air. It was accompanied by a destructive force, as it immediately hacked toward Xiao Yan and Jiyu Nanhai. While the large axe was slashing down, Xiao Yang's eyes were rapidly flickering as he stood a short distance away. He suddenly clenched his teeth before his body flashed. His body then appeared in front of Xiao Yan and Jiyu Nanhai. At the same time, a clan tattoo swiftly surfaced on his brow. The enormous blood-colored axe rapidly magnified in Xiao Yang's eyes, but when the blood-colored axe was half a foot from Xiao Yang, it suddenly stilled. The corpse-like face of the skinny man, with his unusually cold and indifferent expression, finally revealed a fluctuation. Looking at the large blood-colored axe suspended above his head, Xiao Yang sighed in relief in his heart, appearing as though he had been relieved of a great burden. The fire lotus floating on his palm under his sleeve quietly scattered. He raised his head. His eyes stared at the face of the skinny man, who appeared at a loss. The skinny man appeared to be remembering something. Xiao Yang cupped his hands together and spoke in a deep voice, "May I know the name of this elder?" "I am Xiao Yang, a member of the Xiao clan." "Xiao clan?" A ripple immediately rose within the skinny man's lost eyes after hearing this term. He looked at Xiao Yang in front of him. Gradually, a mysterious connection slowly surfaced in his heart. This familiar feeling was the taste of a bloodline. You are a member of the Xiao clan." The skinny man opened his mouth. A hoarse voice was finally emitted from it. Xiao Yang hurriedly nodded. From the looks of the situation, this mysterious person seemed to be related to the Xiao clan. "Who am I?" However, this joy had only surged onto his heart when he felt ice-cold because of the skinny man's subsequent words. This elder did not appear to have a clear mind. "You are Xiao Chen, blood-colored axe Xiao Chen." A voice was suddenly transmitted from behind Xiao Yang. That voice was filled with shock. Xiao Yang turned his head. He looked at Jiyu Nanhai, who had a face filled with disbelief, and asked, "Xiao Chen?" "Xiao Chen." That skinny man also frowned and muttered to himself. "Elder Jiyu, are you acquainted with this elder?" Zun rushed over and asked in surprise. "I am unacquainted with him. However, I have seen this blood-colored axe in the ancient books. The Xiao clan had produced an outstanding person back then. The weapon that this person was known to use was an extremely large blood-colored axe. That person was called Xiao Chen." Jiyu Nanhai stared at the skinny man and said, "Xiao Chen possessed a shocking talent. He could be considered a cousin of Xiao Xian. However, he did not like to be restrained by anything and was a rather temperamental person. An unknown number of experts perished to his axe before he became renowned. In the end, he disappeared without reason. The Xiao clan was unable to find anything about him regardless of how they searched. It is unexpected that he has actually appeared here." That's right, news of the purifying demonic lotus flame had spread soon after he went missing. Jiyu Nanhai suddenly exclaimed as he suddenly recalled something. "Ancestor Xiao Xian's cousin." Xiao Yang was stunned as he frowned. Putting it this way, this person could also be considered his ancestor. However, he avoided the great calamity of the Xiao clan by being here. It cannot be clearly described as a blessing or a disaster. Jiyu Nanhai walked to Xiao Yang's side and sighed. Xiao Yang was quiet. He looked at this Xiao Chen, who was an ancestor of the Xiao clan. At this moment, Xiao Chen revealed a struggle on his face. It appeared as though he was resisting something. "He is resisting the control of the purifying demonic lotus flame," Jiyu Nanhai cried out in a low startled voice, after seeing Xiao Chen's face. Xiao Chen held his giant axe while his body continued to tremble. A faint cream-colored flame gradually escaped through his pores. Xiao Yang's expression was slightly astonished upon seeing this. The purifying demonic lotus flame was trying to use some method to get Xiao Chen to obey it once again, but Xiao Yang did not know how he could help at this moment. After all, that demonic flame had formed in Xiao Chen's body. Xiao Yang's hand suddenly rubbed his forehead, while he was feeling somewhat helpless. That light cluster within his head emitted a faint fluctuation at this moment. That light cluster, which had suddenly moved, caused Xiao Yang to be startled. He quietly sensed that slight fluctuation. His eyes suddenly flashed with joy a moment later. Xiao Yang gege. Zun by the side saw Xiao Yang suddenly lift a leg to walk to the trembling Xiao Chen. She involuntarily cried out in a hurried voice. Xiao Yang waved his hand when he heard her exclamation. He quickly walked to Xiao Chen's side and suddenly slapped his hand against Xiao Chen's shoulder. Xiao Chen's trembling body strangely came to a halt after Xiao Yang's hand touched him. The cream-white flame that had surfaced within his body slowly disappeared. Xiao Chen emitted a couple of rough breaths from his mouth. He lifted his head only a moment later and looked at the clan tattoo on Xiao Yang's forehead with a somewhat complicated expression. His voice was hoarse as he asked, "How is the Xiao clan now?" Xiao Yang was quiet. He softly replied, "The Xiao clan no longer exists." He then gave a brief explanation about the current situation of the Xiao clan. Xiao Chen did not open his mouth from the moment Xiao Yang started talking, but blood slowly rolled down his tightly clenched fists. He finally spoke in a trembling voice a long while later, "Even big brother Xiao Xian died." Xiao Yang softly sighed as he looked at Xiao Chen, who was clenching his fist with his head lowered. He was aware that Xiao Chen's heart was filled with a great hatred, but even if he had remained in the Xiao clan would not have been able to avoid disaster. The Han clan was far too powerful. This place is the demonic flame realm. Ancestor Xiao Chen, please bring us to the purifying demonic lotus flame, Xiao Yang softly requested. All of you are no match for the purifying demonic lotus flame. Xiao Chen shook his head. His voice was still hoarse. There is no way to survive even if we continue remaining in this place. Xiao Yang faintly smiled. His eyes flickered with a light. Follow me. Xiao Chen lifted his head. He exchanged a glance with Xiao Yang before he slowly stood up. After which, he turned around and headed to the final door. Let's follow. Xiao Yang did not say much. He gently waved his hand and followed. Jiu Nanhai opened his mouth, but did not say anything. All he could do was follow. Creak. The entire group quietly followed behind Xiao Chen. They watched him slowly push open that door. Behind the large door was a flight of stairs that extended into the distance. At the other end of the stairs was a huge stone dais. Xiao Yang faintly smiled as he glanced at the stone dais at the end. He took the lead to climb the stone stairs and slowly walked to the end. Xiao Chen, Zun and the rest hesitated for a moment before quickly following behind. Everyone was quiet as they climbed the stone stairs. Around 10 minutes later, they finally began to approach the dais. Xiao Yang lifted his head. He could see a huge throne quietly sitting on that altar. A white-robed figure was seated at that spot. Wisps of a cream-white flames lingered around him, morphing into various shapes. This white-robed figure quietly sat. Not the tiniest aura spread from the figure, but that figure appeared extremely strange to Xiao Yang's group. That white-robed figure finally opened his eyes when everyone stepped onto the dais. A smile that caused one to feel a little startled appeared on his face. You will be able to obtain the essence of the demon flame if you defeat me. Otherwise, all of you shall remain here forever and become my fire slaves. His voice was gentle and warm, but it seemed to cause space itself to tremble. Jiu Nanhai's group revealed grave expressions as their hearts started to feel defeat. This person in front of them caused them to feel as though he was invincible. The silence continued for a moment before Xiao Yang finally exhaled for a long time. His face contained some fatigue, while a low and deep voice slowly sounded. Purifying demonic lotus flame. Looks like you have obtained all of the inheritances of the purifying demonic lotus saint. Otherwise, you would not have been able to practice the nightmare heaven fog to such a level. I must admit that the illusion that you have created is even more real than the Bodhisattva ancient tree's illusion. However, regardless of how real an illusion is, it is ultimately an illusion. Xiao Yang's low voice quietly reverberated across the dais. The warm smile on the handsome man's face also gradually stiffened. This video will end here.